All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to live stream. We're here for the afternoon session. Sorry about being a couple minutes late, but thanks for bearing with me. All right, let's look and see where we landed. I thought we would come down just below. There was a fair value gap here I thought we would settle in on, but it looks like it traded below that and went down to the next fair value gap even below. That's right. That's what it was. I thought we would go right here, the order block. All right, we have a New York low down at 17,586. If we're looking for a lower target on a more long-term basis, that's about 100 points from where the last level that I had marked up at 678. So yeah, about 90 points. We'll give everyone a couple more minutes to jump in, and then we'll start addressing the afternoon trading. All right, let me drop down to the lower time frame. Let's see if there's anything that has occurred first 6 or 7 minutes of this hour. It looks like not a lot has happened. Let me just mark up my macro period. All right, so it looks like if you're short, any of these fair value gaps represents an additional entry. We just tapped into this fair value gap, the one nearest to where price is now. We'll see if we continue to get price to push down, targeting these equal lows and ultimately a new low, trading back into the breaker that sent price higher this morning. Last one. Well, in the 1 minute, call it, we have 1, 2, 3 imbalances here. Let's go ahead and measure this out and see how. Okay, potentially we could trade through the second one and reject back down, but it could also happen here. Let me move up to a higher time frame and see if we have the same sort of levels there. Okay, the 2 minutes, the same as the 1. So it's 3. Yep. Even all the way to the 5 minutes. So yeah, that's, man, fair value gaps everywhere. Okay, it's temporarily held up in this bullish fair value gap. Let me go ahead and extend it so we can watch it and see exactly when it breaks. Okay. I'm going to go back now that we're no longer in a macro. I'm going to go back to the 5 minute and we'll rest here. This will be the time frame that we'll watch price action on. Let me get rid of some of these drawings. Let's see if we can't make it a little cleaner. All right, there we go. So we have a breaker down here. We have a fair value gap here on the 1 minute that we're monitoring. That's so far having price reject to the upside, even though it's not a large range. It's just something we want to watch. We have plenty of bearish momentum here pushing price downwards. And so not a huge optimism on price going higher, but for now, we're just watching to see how it dances. Okay, I drew up the order block here, and it looks like we did, even though we were down below for several candles, we traded above and closed. We just now traded below, but so far we're rejecting with another minute and a half left. So let's see how this current candle closes in relation to that line at 678. Okay, Forex Energy, 17,700. Still interesting. Feel like that was a previous level, like a previous high. Oh, it was. It was the all-time high we broke several weeks ago. That was the all-time high for a couple of years. Hmm. Let's get in here. Okay. So far, the first 15 minutes, we do have a mismatch with the indices. We have Dow selling, and we have S&P basically neutral, and Nasdaq buying so far. The first 15 minutes of the new hour. All right, we'll take a look. Let me take a look at the lower time frame to see if there's anything to note that we may be able to use for current price action, whether we're going to sweep these lows or it'll continue digging higher. Or was it simple an order block, retrace into the order block, and now we're going to sell out? We'll see how that works. Whether on the way down, hit an order block to bounce up, and then hit another order block to come back down. Order block, fair value gap, however you see it. All right, so on the 3, 4, and 5 minute, you just actually before I speak, let me regroup. Give me a second. All right, yeah. So the 3, 4, and 5 minutes still have not broken bearish yet. They have a little ways to go before they are. In fact, practically, we're going to have to see the New York low taken. I mean, not quite that far, but around looks like 632 ish, somewhere in that range, 631, 632. The swing low on the 5 minute from 1015. Yep. So it's this one right here. This is what will break structure on this time frame because of the big push we got out of this breaker. It needs to come all the way back down and break the 50% mark and take out the swing low. And we'll see how this 5 minute candle reacts. It's right now, it tapped into a 5 minute fair value gap, but the larger one you see is from the 1 minute. Also at the 83.5 retracement level. So we're getting close to the very end. If it goes any further, then we're just losing the level. And then we're going to go to sweeping lows. We have relative equal lows here, which are the ones that break structure I was talking about. And then we have the ultimate low down here, which is also the New York low. So it's our morning session low. You're in short now? All right, Dom. Good luck. Crypto, you know you didn't miss anything. There's not much over here. Well, at least so far, since 1 o'clock. You're just looking at this set of candles right down here came and tapped into this fair value gap, 83% retracement level. And so far it's just bouncing back into this order block here. Or a fair value gap, however you want to see it. There's also a fair value gap, which the bodies seem to be respecting the 50% of it. Let's see if we can't break out of this. Right in here. Let's see if we can't get out. Yeah, we have equal right down at 561. Okay, got it. Yeah, at the same time, we got dollar pushing for daily highs. Because it pretty much after we had the big hour, 8:30, when the news was announced, the dollar just got up and ran. But then it took the next 2 hours off. Yep, 9 and 10 o'clock. It didn't really do much. Same for 11. Made a little bullish push during lunch. And in fact, let's just check it out for a second. While not much is happening on ES and NQ. So we have, here's a dollar reaching, looking at like it might want to make new highs up at 104.885. We have the Dow. Okay, so it's already reached for new lows this hour. So far, S&P has not delivered that, and neither has Nasdaq. So we'll mark this up for now, although before the hour closes, this could change. Yep, so we do not have these in sync at all, but the Dow has been the weakest so far today, and it's out in front again. Jay, I have not traded with Elite Traders. I'm not even sure what that is. I'm not sure if that's a person or a company. Hey, this might do it. It might be the one to break the mold a little bit. It hasn't done anything. Just monitoring dollar as it gets closer to its daily high. All right. So for the next until the hour's up, I'm going to be watching the 4 hour. I'm just looking to see how that candle closes. Looks like a sizable rejection candle, which could give us some indication as to what's going to happen later on this afternoon. So I will be watching that. Let's see what's going on down here. Okay, we have a break of the trend line once again. Let's see if this sort of wick trends are broken as well. Mm-hmm. I call it that might be right. You might be right about that. Um, they're just accumulating orders here. I mean, I've seen the slow 30 opening 30 minutes of the afternoon session. I've seen that happen before, but usually around 1:30, we will get some sort of action where you feel like um, price action is starting to loosen up. So far, this first 5 minutes hasn't given us much at all. Yeah, these are not for entries. These trend lines are not to take an entry with raise the king. These trend lines is just to see when price breaks out, and then you can move on with your analysis. But as long as it's in here, there's really not much to do and much to say. Yep. And as a matter of fact, when you see these trend lines forming, you only expect for them to be swept. So more than likely, it could be all these highs here could just run up at once and then a trade back down. But that could probably happen later after it goes further south. What's more likely to happen are these trend lines. You'll just get a run down to sweep all six. Yeah, it's been very quiet. Actually, it's been pretty quiet since around 11 o'clock. When we got the big run up from 10:15 until 10:40-ish, somewhere in there, things started to get quiet right after that. It looks like there was some action just before lunch and then during lunch, but just a retracement. All right, finally we see some energy pushing through that 1 minute fair value gap, but actually, this one is a 5 minute, so they're in the same spot. That's fine. That's what I was hoping to see. So now I can get rid of the trend line as long as it closes down here. So I'll give it a couple more minutes. But once it closes, then I'll dump those trend lines. Hmm. Okay. All right, TJ. Thanks for that. All right. I'm watching the Dow. The Dow is continuing to push for lower prices. S&P has also broken the low that it had a few minutes ago when we were looking at it. It still hasn't swept its low of the day, but it is still moving a little lower. And the dollar, it's pulled back a little bit. It still hasn't taken out that high. Give it to the end of the hour. So another 20 minutes. Also 30 seconds left on this candle. Let's see where it closes. 3 minute bearish breaker. Okay. Like it wants to trade back into the range. So we got another 3 minutes. We'll see the previous candle traded all the way back up to it. And remember, these trend lines are not scientific at all. I just threw them up there just to show the funnel shape, but it's not that it's perfect at all. You can see it's not even on. I mean, first of all, I drew it on the 15-minute, but it's right. It's not even touching like extremes, or we had this sort of thing here. So I wouldn't, like I said, don't use it as an entry, but just use it more of a guide to see where price is trading to or from. And so what I wanted to see was just to see it trade away from it. So I know the trend lines are no longer valid. Yeah, TJ, they said they were sending it out to those who had I guess who were on the waiting list for Topstep X. Yep. Alrighty. See, that's what I'm talking about. So trade it back up to it. Now push away back down into the fair value gap. And even though I didn't try to make these trend lines scientific at all, you can see they sort of fit the mold. It works. Right, we're on the 5 minutes. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is the 8th candle and a couple missed. So you're talking about the last hour. We're in the same spot. This is the last hour of trading. So if you're in a position, you should still be in that position because nothing really has happened to invalidate your position unless you took a short down here and then it raised up to here and you got put out, or you took a long up here and then it traded down here and you got taken out. Outside of that, you should still be in your trade if you took an open position, because price hasn't traded higher or lower. In fact, this was the range right here from this low starting at 12.55, which closed at 1 o'clock, until this high. That's where we are. Yes, it is, Ray. It's coming. All right, to make sure we're ready for all that, let's go ahead and dump these trend lines. Make sure we have a clear screen so we can see exactly what's occurring here. So I always say which direction would cause the most pain. Because if I'm looking for this entire range, yeah, it felt like we were close to 50%. We're not too far off. Because the direction that'll cause the most pain is the direction that'll go first. No, it's all good, TJ. Yeah, pain. Pain is in who would lose their trade or who would have their stops run. I would say people who were in longs here and held, thinking that price would find support and continue long, many of them are probably out by now by the time it came down to 672, because if you got in at 645, 650, right, your profits are down to $300-400 now. Those people are probably out, but those who went short up here are still hanging around. So my guess is we might hit one or two of these first, and then we can go lower. It's just speculation though, so we'll have to wait and see what happens. I'm 41. Okay. All right, unicorn. You got in just before lunch. Oh, you cut it to take a nap. Oh, that's right. You did say you wanted a 2 hour nap. All right. So we have a new low put in from this leg down. Just swept the low from 1255. Okay. So Nasdaq just put in a new low for this hour. ES had done it previously, and clearly the Dow has a new low for the day. So the Dow has just been running up, and the dollar still hasn't taken that high. It's still in the same position. So we'll see what happens in the next few minutes. All right, let's get down to a lower time frame so we can see each individual candle. So now 150. Yep. So finally, we invalidated this fair value gap on the 1 minute. So it's gone now. Kind of we've broken through after all of this back and forth here. This is definitely what we would consider balanced price. So it may not actually return in here. All right, there it goes. So it's off to the races. Let's just watch it go. No, I don't have a bearish breaker marked out. I do not. Let me see if I can find a bearish breaker. It seemed to me like the bearish breaker was here. N15 candle. Wow, this is bold. Yeah, I only say that because the bullish breaker is just below. Now the bullish breaker may get violated and turn invalid, but they're sitting right on top of each other. Yep, you're right. You're right. That makes sense. Mm. Another minute, we'll be finished with the hour, and I'll take a peek at the hourly candles and see where we landed, whether we still have SMT or not. Well, moving it once again. This 1 o'clock hour has not been very fruitful. All right, we now have crossed over. It's 2 o'clock now. Silver bullet traders, start looking for your setup. Mm-mm. All right, look at this potentially low to be run. At least retrace to 51. I'm getting really close to the breaker from this morning, that launch price around 10.15. Oh, yes. So the dollar did, okay. So right at 2 o'clock, it did close above. And so far that it started this hour on the other side of the high of the day. It has been pushing. So let's go ahead and just take a peek at that while we wait for NQ to do something, anything. So this is the high of the day I had marked up, and dollar was pushing towards it last hour. It finally, at the very end, peaked above, closed right at it, opened right at it as well, and started trading above, creating a new high even this hour. You see the Dow, even this hour, has now pushed below last hour's low, making a new low. Okay. We see the same thing happening over on ES. Hasn't eclipsed the low of the day, but it's pushing towards that. We have quite a ways to go for Nasdaq to reach the low of the day, but it's still moving. We got time. See? All right, we'll see if Nasdaq is able to eclipse that low of the day at 586 New York low. So we do see they're all synced up now, all three selling. We see the dollar pushing higher. It's still the first 3 minutes of the hour, but so far, so good. Okay, so we did actually trade back into the breaker from earlier. We can get back up to the 5 minute now. There's no threat of a market structure shift. Let's see if we close below to invalidate this breaker and get it off the screen. Okay, New York low is within reach. It's about 30 points away, maybe 35, but that's not too much on NQ. You can reach 35 in 2 to 3 candles. So that may be another 10 minutes or so, unless there's a retracement. Khaled, you're right. It has been, I think you held from right around 1 o'clock. So it was at least over an hour. Yep, you're learning. It is definitely important. You have to hold and hold and hold. And if you can, don't move your stop loss. Okay, 1 minute till this candle is over. Hey, I think I can close it now. There it is. Gone. I'll include the wick. We'll leave the wick in there. Oh man. Sorry about that, Ray. Yeah, it happened to someone else earlier too, made more than 50%. And so then you have to find a way to lose. No, you hold your trade. So Topstep is not going to end the trade for you. It's not going to close it. So if you can only make 1,500 per in a day for a 50,000 combine, and then you open a trade and you make 3,000 in one day, then that's how you do it. You should have closed your trade at 1,500, but you left it open so it made more money. Yeah. So it's whatever your target is. It's during the combine phase. So if your target is 3,000, you can't make more than 50% on one trade. So you have to make sure you don't do that. Yeah, the 50K, I think they do have as far as the ratio, I think the 50K is the best ratio. When you look at drawdown versus what the funding is. And I'm trying to think. Yeah, I think it's because your drawdown, you can lose, I think 2,000, which is 4%. But then on 150K, you can lose 4,500, which is only 3%. So you end up having a larger drawdown per capita on the 50K. Yeah, exactly, Ray. Most people will lose $1,000 on one trade. So, so having only 2,000 that'll lose your combine, most people can't handle that. No. So 4,500 is overall. If I'm not mistaken. Hang on, give me a second. Let me just make sure. All right. Yep. And so it's the maximum. So that's the total. The most you can lose in one day, I think, is 3,000 on the 150K. So if you lose 4,500, you're out, but you can lose 3,000 in one day, and then the following day you'll have 1,500 left that you can lose. And likewise, on a 50,000 account, you can only lose 1,000 in a day, or 2,000 overall. All right, Queen, did you catch that? All right, everyone. Sorry, I wasn't even paying attention. We're getting really close to the New York low, which was the 9:30 open run down to 17,586. We've made it as far as 17,592, so we're only about 5 points away. The 50K profit goal is 3,000. 150K is 9,000. So the profit goal is the same percentage. It's just you get a higher percentage of drawdown on the 50K. You get 4% versus 3. Yeah, Queen. So what should happen is if all three account sizes were equal, the 50,000 account maximum drawdown should be 1,500. And then that would make it 3% of a maximum drawdown, as well as 3%, I'm sorry, 6% profit target. But instead of 3% drawdown for the 50,000 account, they gave you 4%. So it's slightly higher, an extra $500 of drawdown. And that's essentially the advantage to the 50K account is you get an extra $500 of drawdown. Yep. So just below this morning's New York low, we have a 4-hour fair value gap at 577. So it's not even far away from it before it hits a PD array on that time frame. And Ray, this is why you run into trouble. You're taking these shorts up here and you're running it down 100 points and getting 2,000 per contract. weakness and my expectation of, okay, for the rest of the session. Okay. Okay, I got really close and then started to push away, which is very typical of price action. All right, let's get back up to the 5-minute. 4-hour fair value gap. Oh, it's old. It comes from February 1st, between the candles of 10 a.m. and 1800 on February 1st. It was a massive bullish candle, February 1st at 2 o'clock. I believe that might have been one of the days where we got some earnings news or something and price just kind of ran away. But anyway, yeah, it was February 1st at 2 p.m. A big candle, and that created a fair value gap. Oh, has it been mitigated? I showed the February 2nd at 6 a.m. A wick traded down, but it didn't trade all the way through. Because what I'm showing is the fair value gap goes from 578 down to 415. Let me show it here. Maybe I'm looking at something differently. Let's get rid of this. Yep, so it's right here. And then, yes, we had this candle trade about 70% through, but this bottom portion, from what I can see, has not been traded to yet. Mm. Mm. Okay. Okay. So when you see it trade past consequent encroachment, is that mitigated for you? Because I still show this piece right here has not been traded to. Yep. So this area which hasn't been touched is down at 463. That's another 150 points down. Okay. All right. Let me get back down to the lower time frame then. Yep. 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 Yes, Ray. Absolutely. I have it marked up as an invert volume imbalance because price did trade through it. But then when it was retracing on the second at 6 a.m. on the 4 hour, you know what? I'll just throw it back up here so we can watch it. I don't normally do inverted volume imbalances, but I just, for whatever reason, I don't know why I did it on that one. Probably because I saw it trade down to it. So over here was the volume imbalance. And when I stretched it across, I remember seeing it was exactly the same size. And that's what this candle traded down to. So, so then I went in and I just said, okay, well, this would be an inversion. So this is what we end up with. Or 24. Yep. But yeah, you're right. There's a lot of untapped bearish PD arrays or even bullish PD arrays on the move that was when it was going up all year since the start of the year. We've had some retracement, but not a lot. Okay, didn't even realize that, but we finally traded back through that regular trading hour gap from last week, the massive one we had where it traded down to 40 to 50% of it and then took off. So now this candle we had this morning took care of all of that. So let's get that off the screen. This 15 there is the first one we'll get to. And if we pass there, we'll come back and see what else is available. We can get rid of these levels since it's not buying. All right, now we're in between 7 and 10 o'clock this morning, the range. Nice clean screen, 15-minute time frame. Okay. Yeah, I like the unicorn. I'm still working on that market maker model. It's not there yet. No, I didn't want to get in on it. It's not that I didn't want to get in on a bearish move. I didn't believe in the bearish move. So, and then once it shows itself, it's already moving. So at that point, it's not worth getting in. Yeah, and that's the thing is that I always when it's 50-50 and it could go bearish or bullish, and I don't take a position, once it reveals itself, it's too late. And the last breaker you pointed out that there was no retracement back in that 3-minute breaker. It would have had to been taken earlier. So no, I think that keeps me out for the day. Yeah, you can definitely see it on the 5-minute. You can see that it was the market maker sell model, especially once you start seeing these breakers that were created along the way, all the way down as it was making its way down to the New York low, even though we haven't gotten there yet. Even when we took this low and you saw it trade back up, it's very much a market maker model. Go down, find the next little area where you can find a breaker, pass that, trade back up, test it, sweep the last low, then consolidate. Dollar still moving up. All right, everyone. It's 2:30 now. 2:30. Be back. I'm gonna go grab something to drink. Be right back. Give me 2 minutes. All right, here we are. We finally got a retracement back into the last breaker. Let's see if it holds or if we trade up to 50% and then how it responds when it gets there. One minute at 209. Okay, I missed that then. Here. Oh, okay. So I don't have it drawn the same way then. Yeah. 620 would have been the lower extremity then. So on the 3 minute, which candles did you draw it from then? Because I don't think I have the same candles drawn. I took these two candles, 1012 and 1015. Okay. Yep. All right. So even if you use just this one candle, right, you get this size. And then when I drop down to the 1 minute, so is it this candle then? Which is the 205 candle, not the 209. Is that what it was? The 205 candle? Maybe that's where I was confused. You said 209, and so I was looking at 209, which is this one down here. This one right here. This little doji. So that's what it must. That's what it was. Okay. So the 205 candle is what I should have looked for. Hmm. Actually, I can't because this one closed at 206. I don't know. Hmm. Close enough. All right. So it looks like as of right now, we are trading potentially through this breaker, or at least enough to make people who are short, at least enough to make them sweat a little bit. All right. So we have a fair value gap just below it. within the bearish fair value gap, we potentially have a bullish one forming. We have another 4 minutes, so anything could happen. All right, this is an order block there. Yeah, I noticed when I watched, I think it was Stoic. When I watched Stoic, he mentioned something like that, that once you get the confirmation, he just enters. He doesn't wait for it to come back and retrace and touch the breaker or go and touch the consequent encroachment. Once he get a confirmation outside and it closes, he consider entering it immediately. That's kind of his take on it. I guess it really depends on how far out it goes before it closes. But if it closes right outside, I think he sees it as the same as a retracement, so he goes with it. So that tells me I have a little more back testing to do, so I can gain more confidence in taking that entry without it having to retrace all the way back inside with a clear cut entry. Because sometimes, when it does that, obviously everyone's looking for it and you get a lot of people to enter that trade. But if it doesn't retrace, you get far fewer people taking that entry. See, yep. Yep, you're right. It still hasn't invalidated, not at all. So I went ahead and put where the order block would be, so that maybe that's going to hold price. It'll go up, tap that order block, and then carry on his merry way and take out this New York low. In fact, this is a low risk entry to take. Don't you do that. Whoops. Appropriate for this. What? I don't understand. It's not fun. No, there's no pull. You can only pull it if you're on paper trading through TradingView because it's just a different broker setup. But through Tradovate, they don't have the pull pieces right there. And I don't want to move this one because if I move this one up here, it'll close the trade. So I'm just going to have to sit here and hold it. I know what I could do. If it sells off, I can put it just below in profit and then drag it above. That it'll let me do that. See. Oops. I don't understand why it won't let me do that. This is. I hate market executions. You know what? This is what I'll do. Yeah. I'm going to run down here. We should run to these buy limits now. Been trying to learn more about market structure and how price actually prints. And there's been some tutorials I watched recently. So I'm thinking and hoping that this failure here is going to force a retest of the low. You know what, crypto, I might do that too. Might get rid of the market execution because I can't stand it. Jesus Christ. Where is the thing? I want to use a stop loss. They won't let me. No, that's not shit. See? All right, let me get down and see if I can't find a way to get back in this. Can't. I'm struggling here big time. It won't let me. No, you can. You can. I just didn't. I wanted to jump in where it was. And then after you're already in, You can't go back in and then say, oh, I want to reopen the positioning tool. You have to do it beforehand. All right, 250, everyone. It's 250. You know what? Let me just take one off there just in case. All right. Oh, no runners. Oh, well. Okay, Ray. Got it. That was good. That felt good. I needed that. Oh, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Yeah, I went from, if I didn't draw this, if I didn't hit this order block here, I probably wouldn't have taken it. But with the order block and the rejection and the close, I just saw that as an opportunity to get in because maybe it would still go up, but before it did it, it was going to go back and retest these lows. And so I felt like it was a good trade to take. And the fact that the New York low was still open and it was really close to where we were before. So I felt like going for these equal lows could also take the New York open at the same time. or the New York low, sorry. I did say I was done. You're right. Create new order. Okay. I should have. Yeah, I didn't want to miss the opportunity, so I just hit the button and it. But the good thing is that I had confidence that it was running for these lows, and so even though I didn't have a stop loss, I honestly felt a little better than I normally do, even when I have a stop loss, just because I had that level of confidence. Now, what I didn't take into consideration is that when I entered the trade, it was 240 something, so it was almost 250. Had I considered that, it probably would have made life a little easier as well. And you're right, these breakers don't miss. Jeez. What was sweet about this one was being patient and waiting for it to dig into the breaker. So then all of a sudden your trade was less risky. You don't always get that, but in the moments that you do, it's a good setup. Yeah, Khalid, you're right. It was risky. I don't know if you noticed, but I was sitting on the button to hit it if it got out of control and I didn't like it. So I guess the only thing that could have really screwed me up is when it does those whipsaw, you know, 1 second, 40-point candles. If something like that happened, yeah, I was screwed big time. Oh, I didn't know that, Ray. I didn't know you could add and create new order and add a stop to a previous market order. Oh, wow. Thanks for that. Thanks for that. I will keep that in mind. Man, that was a problem there for a second, but yeah, appreciate it. All right, everyone, we're heading into power hour. Anyone who likes to trade between 3 and 4, you're up on deck. Yep, this was and like I learned this yesterday watching strange ICT videos after the session yesterday. So I think that was you, Queen, that made that recommendation. Strange ICT. I watched his videos on market structure, and he talked about the failure when it takes a level. So essentially, the what do we call this? The Judas swing. You take a level and then fake, and then once it closes inside without closing above the previous high, then you can expect the lows to be targeted, or not necessarily the lows. He said wherever price came from, and in this case, there weren't any breaks in price, so it took you all the way back down to the lows. Oh, that's right, Dustin. Yes, I was trying to adjust and put in a stop loss, and it closed me out halfway down. That's right. It closed me out around right here, and so I dropped down to I went down to the 1 minute, and all I looked for was one candle to retrace back into a fair value gap. And as soon as it touched it, I was like, okay, I'm back in. And matter of fact, it may not even been a fair value gap. It may have been just the next candle. Once I got a wick traded back into the previous candle, then I jumped back in. And that time I jumped in with 2 contracts when originally I was in with 1. No, strange ICT for market structure. All right, I'll give you the link so you can see exactly. It's his last two that he made. One was 3 days ago, one was 5 days ago. It's titled How to Read Market Structure is the first one, and the second one is revealing my 1 minute Forex scalping strategy. But I'll give you the link to both. All right, there go the two videos, both of them. Breakers. Ash trades. Ash. Yep. Yeah, I noticed that too, Ray. Yeah, I hadn't heard anyone talk about a weak high versus a strong high. All right, who asked about that? D. Anderson, here you go. This is Breakers by Ash Trades. There's an accompanied PDF that goes along with it, so make sure you go in the description and download that as well. Oh, no problem, no problem. Here to share the wealth. All right, anyone with a runner, you're still winning. In fact, the New York low, once it was traded below, it then became resistance. We've now had it twice reject out of that level, both times making new lows. 505. Of course, you're still in. You said you were staying in until what was that, 420, 424 or something like that? 24. There you go. All right, let's watch the 1 minute for just a few more. You know, I've always used the macro to look for a market structure shift going in the opposite direction. Might also start using it to reach targets or to reach pools of liquidity. Like here, it wasn't a market structure shift, but it was struggling to take the New York low. And then we saw that as we headed into the macro, that's the only place it wanted to go. In fact, and this is on the 1 minute, it didn't produce not one single bullish candle. Hmm. All right, let's go to a higher time frame and then start looking for where these levels could be. So we got a 15-minute BISI coming at 17,555. That's coming from way back February 2nd. Oops. Yep, right here. What do you know? Nah, there's no way. There's no way this breaker is going to hold. Absolutely no way. But anyway, so we have a 15-minute gap there. We have 262 is way too far, but those are equal lows that look really appetizing. Maybe tomorrow. All right, so on the way to this fair value gap on the 15-minute, you see we have equal lows here, relative equal lows there, which have just mostly just been achieved. So now at 556, the bottom of the fair value gap is at 515. So that's a 40-point fair value gap there. They were also in that 1 hour fair value gap I was talking about earlier. That extends as far down as 453. Holy cow, that's 120 points. Oh, okay. Queen, I always wondered that. I was actually talking to my brother last week and I asked him the same question because he also trades. And I was wondering, like, how long do you keep old session highs and lows that aren't revisited? How long do you hold on to them? I mean, obviously, you want them to be revisited at some point, but right, if you leave them there, it's just sometimes your screen is just has too much information on it or too many lines and too many dictations there. 562, 516, 553. Okay, we'll go much lower today for 1 month. Okay, that makes sense. So, have you ever sent FMD request to any random Discord user? I have never sent an FMD request to anyone. Oh, you have an indicator that keeps them up there for you. All right. Let's go up to the 30-minute here. All right. These lows from Tuesday, February 6th we're almost there. And that's the 562 you were talking about. Yep. And 560. 560.75 and 562.75. 553. Okay, so that would be this one. This is on a 30-minute. I know we don't look at this time frame too often, but if it does sweep these session lows you're talking about, Queen, you'd be right here in the fair value gap, the smaller one, and then which is part of the larger one. The larger one has mostly been traded through. It's only this bottom 10% that hasn't been traded to yet. But of this fair value gap, majority of it has not been touched. Oh, a friend request. Oh, Mr. Silver. Oh, that's, yeah, I was wondering. Had no idea what that meant. With your name and photos, sent me a friend request. What? I have Mr. Silver. That's definitely not me. With my name and my photo. Wow. People are already already stealing my info and pretending to be me. Okay. Thought they'd wait until I had more subscribers before they did that. Okay, let's find all the new week opening gaps. I usually keep them for a quarter, so about 9 of them, I think, on the weeklies, or maybe I switched it to 4, so maybe it's only a month. Yep, new week opening gap from the last week in January that ended February 2nd. That new week opening gap is 504, so about another 60 points below. Once it hits these lows that you were talking about, then that's your next level. So you have this fair value gap. You can trade all the way through it into the larger one, and about consequent encroachment of the larger one is the new week opening gap. Granted, this is on the 30 minutes, so maybe the hourly is slightly different. Let's go to the hourly since you're probably more familiar with that one. Okay, there you go. So the new week opening gap. Who was that who asked me a question? Did I think it was going more? Yep, Mr. Silver, that was definitely not me. Yeah. And the crazy thing is, Queen, you're doing. Are you still doing voice to type chat? Let's see. Yeah, TJ, this is how I do it. Oh, that was Aminox asked if I think it'll go much lower today. Well, Aminox, we have about another hour before trading ends for prop firms. So at 4:10, you have to be out of your trade. We generally end our session at 4 o'clock. Do I think it'll go much lower? Well, we do have a fair value gap. We're right there. Now, we did sweep our morning session low, which was the last low of the day. Um, so that could be the end of price action for this hour. And then we could just see consolidation into the end. But it could also trade into this fair value gap. And as we were looking at earlier, there are some other key levels from previous sessions about 2 weeks ago that are right here. So we could get all of those and trade in here. So my guess is we'll get somewhere in here. We're at 570 now. I'd be looking at it to get somewhere in 530, 540 range, somewhere around the midpoint of this fair value gap. So far, we haven't seen a willingness for it to push back into this fair value gap here. We saw a couple times it traded back to this New York low. Each time it broke lower, and that was on the lower time frame. So we're on the 15 now, so you only see one candle. But on the lower time frame, it touched it 3 or 4 times, and each time it was rejected. So I would guess that it's going to continue lower until it finds a PDA rate that turns things around. So far, it hasn't hit that yet. What are we looking for here today? Hmm. Well, we're looking for bearish momentum to continue. We're looking for it to reach a key level that it's been searching for in order to turn price around. It hasn't met that yet, which is why it's continuing to sell. We identified equal lows, which have already been taken. Let me go ahead and show those. Right, these two equal lows been taken already. Next equal lows are here, but it's sitting right on top of the fair value gap, so we don't need to mark it up. We just know when it touches the fair value gap, it also sweeps these at the same time. Anything below this fair value gap, we've identified new week opening gap, this level here at 503 as sort of the next landing spot for price. If it can trade all the way through this fair value gap, then look for 503. Okay, I think it did touch the fair value gap here. So the equal lows I was showing you, those have also been touched. I think there's one that's a little bit deeper, maybe a point inside of the gap. So maybe it needs to go a point deeper to get it. But we'll see. Yeah, exactly. All of us will be out of our trade. The only person still in will be you. None of us can trade after 410. But guess who else is not eating? This guy here. I usually don't eat anything until the afternoon live stream's over. The little snack I get at the start of the afternoon live stream is generally a couple oranges or bananas and some toast. So very low calories, very little to eat. And then I wait until we're done, and then I decide to eat something then, and usually take the dog for a walk, get some exercise. Yeah, I feel worse for you guys. At least when I'm done, it's only 2 in the afternoon, so it's a nice late lunch or a good morning fast. But for all of you on the East Coast, where it's 5 p.m. when you or 4 p.m. when you're done, yeah, it's a little more difficult for you. But at least you guys can take a break and go get something to eat. I have to stay on because even when I walk away for 2 minutes to grab some coffee, I come back and I notice like 15 people left the room. So, all right, D. Anderson, we will catch you tomorrow. Yeah, it has been a good day for sure. It's always a good day when I have a win, but it was a good day regardless. This morning, a lot of you caught some really awesome trades on the sell, even on the rebound at 10:15, where it bought up for another 120 points. There were many of you who jumped in on on the breaker and took that. So it definitely has been a good day, both identifying opportunities but also taking them. We'll catch you in the morning. Thanks for being here again. All right, so we had dug a little deeper into this fair value gap. So for sure, those areas of influence over here are now wiped out. We can see it traded through all of that. We're now down trading into the fair value gap. We'll see how far it digs through. And again, if it does dig through, the next level is 504, new week opening gap from the first of the month. I vote for. All right. Well, we'll be rooting for you. Let's see if we can get it. One of the good things I'm looking at is each candle making a lower low. And on top of that, each candle's making a lower high. So you don't have a swing high except for up here. Yeah, I would say, Queen, you're getting so many ticks on your trades. You probably could make as much on micros as many other people make on minis. That's exactly what I was getting at. But that some people might take a trade and it'll give them 20 points and they'll have $500 and they'll be happy and they'll walk away for the day. And then you'll trade micros. And by the end of the day, here you are sitting at 1,000 and you still have a runner that can produce more. Wow. That's crazy. And the good thing about that micro is that you can absorb the stop loss without any problem. So you can put your stop where it needs to be for a successful trade and you can leave it. And then if it runs for 150 points, you still get a really solid trade without risking too much. All right, we have our first candle that's going to take a previous candle's high. First one since we visited the breaker block about 30 to 45 minutes ago. All right, so the last candle did close. I was wondering if it would close in that area or not, and it did. But as I mentioned before, every candle on the way down was making a lower high. So there are no swing highs for this rally to take over to change market structure. Okay, it's 15. Okay, yep. All right, retest at a New York Open. Let me go down to the 5-minute, make it a little easier to see. Okay, so we got back-to-back bullish candles, creating one fair value gap and potentially a second. Closed above that New York low, which had been resistance for multiple candles. You're back now? All right. Yeah, we did look at that early. I know we was at least 70.8%. Once I saw that, I was okay with it. But you're right. You're right, Queen. I was looking at that as well earlier today. If you're talking about this range here. Yep. Pull it from there. So 78.6. If you take it starting from the candle body to the wick, if you go wick to wick, then we passed 70.8%. Sure did. And that's when it started to trickle back down. Mm-hmm. And pips, okay. Absolutely hit that OTE exactly. I had it marked up as OTE earlier. I took it off just because it was just so much on the chart, but yeah, this was on there earlier today. We had an OTE set up. Went right up to consequent encroachment and failed. Pushing out. Then we had a breaker form on a lower time frame, traded back into the breaker, and then off it went during lunch. We came back after lunch, and then that's when some people were able to find entries over here. I guess, well, maybe it was right here then, because it was right around 1 o'clock. Okay, let's see how it responds to this New York Open. We got another 45 seconds. We may get a close below. Right now, it's undecided. Okay. It's now touched that level. Let's see how it responds. Got a rejection and closure. Look at that. So now do we run down to this low, which is 553? Okay, now that level's broken. Now we want to see if it closes above or not. And yep. So right now, this candle will show where the 5-minute ends. Also, this is the end of the 15-minute candle. So in 5 minutes, we'll go in 4 minutes, we'll check and see where the 15-minute landed as well. look at price action there and see if it tells us anything. We do have the afternoon the last macro coming in 10 more minutes. So we will have both of those candles prior to, and we can make a decision based on that. Let's see where the 15 is. Okay. Yeah. And we can drop the New York low. We don't need that. All right, Khaled. Let's see how it works out for you. Another 2.5 minutes left on this candle, as well as the 5-minute candle. We'll check that as well. Let's get the 5-minute. Okay, looking good. All right, let's go ahead and stretch out this breaker one more time for when it revisits. Get back over to the 15. All right, let's see if price can push through this level. All right. Another 40 seconds. Let's see where we land on this one. Great. So it did close pretty high, actually. Let's look at what it did on the 5-minute. All right. So we got a big closure above this. We're still in the order block here. Let's see. Yeah, it's the exact same one, 15 and the 5. We're still in it, but it is definitely closed above. So for the 15-minute, that's a key level there, or as we would call a strong high. You're right. It was a, yeah, if you're looking for a long, this was a nice one to get at the very end of the day after tapping into the fair value gap down here. Yeah, you probably could have got in this cluster. This would have been a cluster you would have probably entered on. But still, that's at 570, and we're talking now at 640. That's 50, 60 points. Okay, it looks like it's running now. Wow, look at that. Look at that. So like I said, this is the strong high for the 15-minute. This is the breaker we took the earlier sell from just before 3 o'clock. You know, let's get rid of the trend line. We don't need it. Yeah, I was looking at that on the 15, I think, just because it was fewer candles. So that's where I first noticed it. I said, okay, we got a breaker possibly forming here. But we needed to break structure. Got to break structure. All right, macro coming in 1 minute. Does not want to take that high. Not on this candle. All right, let's drop down to the 1 minute. Let's see if we can get over the hump. We got equal highs on the 1 minute, so I wonder if this might be the final target since we're at the end of the day. We got this big bullish push out of a fair value gap. All right, macro time now. Let's see if we can push higher. Strong low down at 585 area. Got a small little sliver of a bearish fair value gap here. Let's see if that means anything. Yeah, I'm still getting used to that breaker to breaker thing. Now, I do understand the breaker to breaker when you're doing the market maker model, because in a lot of cases, those key levels are breakers that it creates on the way. But I still need a little more practice with recognizing all the breakers up and down a price leg, and then how price moves back and forth between them. But now, yeah, and that's not worth being greedy. Can't believe this fair value gap held though. When it was so close to breaking structure and flipping the 15-minute back around. All right, let's see which one of these fair value gaps will provide support. Okay, let's start by measuring the most recent leg. 50% inside of a fair value gap, right at around 617. Okay, hasn't turned around yet. We actually might target 587. And right as I say that, all right, let's make another pass at 645, see if it can't get through. First, it needs to take out the high of last candle. Okay, now it has done that. So now let's make another pass and try at 645. Okay. All right. Once again, a retest of 645 is where we are looking at next. Hopefully it can push through this bearish fair value gap that held price last time. Another failure will sweep these lows and take us down to these lows, 586. I'll do what I can, TJ. All that I can. Absolutely. I got you. No, I don't see volume. I don't have volume on my chart. I try to keep it simple. And so I don't have volume there. All right. Sweep those highs now. There it is. Bingo. Break a structure on the 15-minute now. Now it could be a turtle soup. I'm going to go back to something that you said, Queen, about someone who took a long down here. Jesus Christ. 650 from 560. You talk about almost 100 points in the last 30 minutes just for believing it would turn around here. That's good for price. All right, so now we see the 15-minute flip back over. That means all the lower time frames most likely flipped over as well. So the only thing remaining bearish might be the hour. And I think that's the only one. So now we got to see if we'll get a failure on the hourly through overnight trading heading into London. If we do get a failure, then we'll look for lows tomorrow. If we get price buying up overnight heading into tomorrow morning and we eclipse, let's go to the hourly. Alrighty, strong high right here. Let's move this down. Okay, this is going to be our level 791. If we run over over 791 overnight, then tomorrow we may be looking bullish. Outside of that, we still have some levels below that price might be seeking, and we'll take that up tomorrow. But as of now, not 100% sure which direction it's going to go, but it is good to see that on the 15 and below, we have seen that change in price structure. Now we do still need a strong finish, so we need another 2.5 minutes to keep pushing and to close up here and not back down in the range. But so far, it's a good start. Oh, okay. Oh, I thought you were talking about volume, because I know some people do follow volume, and when they see a lot of volume into the market is when they're willing to trade. What? Of course, you got a trade in there, Queen. Of course. Uh, Short target was a beauty. Yep. Laughter. Look at that. Good job. 1300. Okay. These levels are no longer key levels. We can drop those. We got another minute to go. Hopefully we close somewhere in this fair value gap up here. It would actually be nice to bump up against this fair value gap at 699. Give another 20 points. Had to do it. All right. Well, I guess you didn't leave any money on the table. 706. 706 will be a nice run, especially since it just came up from 550. It's a New York high. You know what? I'll leave it there. I was going to rename it Strong High, but I'm just going to leave it. Actually, it wasn't a New York high. I did move this. So I need to put this back where it was and create a new one. Okay, so it did close where it needed to close, which was up in the range near its extreme high. So that's awesome. Queen, I think you said that it's going to run after 4 o'clock. Maybe we get a little retracement down here, and then after the rest of us are gone and doing something else, we'll get a nice big strong push. Not a crumb. There you go. So you are greedy. All right, all. Thanks again for the session today. This has once again been a good one. I say that every day, but so far I haven't had a bad session where I just wish we didn't have it. So it's been another good session. Actually good to have a win this afternoon. and many of you also shared the same success. So yeah, thank you all for being here. Thanks for your participation. Thanks for your support of the channel. On your way out, hit the like button. If you're brand new, make sure you subscribe. We'll do it all again tomorrow morning, 9:15. Till then, cheers, everyone. See you then.